All right, today we're diving into one of the most famous and influential collections of stories in the world, The 1001 Nights. Now, you might know it better in the West as the Arabian Nights, but this is so much more than just a bunch of fairy tales. It's a story that was literally born from a brilliant, desperate plan for survival. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if your life actually depended on your ability to spin a good yarn? A story so gripping that a powerful, murderous king would have to put off your execution just to hear how it ends. Well, that is the exact high-stakes premise at the very heart of this incredible collection. And here they are, our two main players. On one side, you've got a powerful, heartbroken, and frankly vengeful sultan. And on the other, you have the incredibly clever woman, Scheherazade, who is about to use the power of storytelling itself to save not just her own life, but the lives of every woman in her kingdom. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the king's truly cruel decree. Then we'll get into Shahrazade's amazing storytelling gambit. After that, we'll dive into some of the 1001 tales she tells, uncover the mysterious history of the book itself, and finally, we'll explore its absolutely everlasting legacy. Okay, so it all kicks off with a powerful ruler, King Shahryar, and a single moment of betrayal, a moment so profound that it unleashes a horrific chain of events. The king, along with his brother, actually witnesses his wife being unfaithful, and this act just completely shatters his trust in everyone. It convinces him that no woman could ever be loyal. His reaction isn't just sadness or anger, it's a vow to enact a brutal, systematic, and terrible revenge. And he followed through on this. For 3 long years, the king stuck to this horrific custom. He would marry a young woman one day, only to have her executed the very next morning. This went on until the people cried out in fear and sorrow, and the kingdom was nearly empty of young women to marry. But then, just when things seem their most hopeless, a heroine emerges. Someone who believes she can stop the carnage not with a sword or an army, but with stories. Now, Scheherazade isn't just courageous. She is incredibly smart and well-read. We're talking about a woman who had pored over 1,000 books of histories and poetry. And with all that knowledge, she comes up with a plan. So, against the desperate pleas of her own father, the wazir, she volunteers herself to be the king's next bride. Her plan is just a stroke of genius. It's this multi-step, perfectly calculated strategy. First, she marries the king. Then, she makes what seems like a simple final request, to have her younger sister, Dunyazad, there with her. Just as planned, her sister asks for a story to help pass the long night. Shahrazad begins a fantastic tale. But then, just as the sun starts to rise, right at the most thrilling part, she stops. And you know what? It works. The king is completely hooked. He's so consumed by curiosity that he's forced to spare her life for one more day just to find out what happens next. And that one night, well, it turns into 1001 nights, as Shahrazad brilliantly weaves tales within tales, always leaving the king wanting more. So you've got to be wondering, right? What kind of stories did she tell? What tales could possibly be so captivating that they could keep a murderous king on the edge of his seat for nearly 3 years? Just look at this. This is the table of contents from a single volume, and it barely even scratches the surface. The sheer scale of her storytelling is mind-boggling. We're talking tales of genies and merchants, of kings and fishermen, of sorcerers and lovers. It's a whole, vast, sprawling universe of stories. And nestled within this massive collection are some tales you have almost definitely heard of. The incredible 7 Voyages of Sinbad the Sailor, the story of Aladdin and his discovery of a magic lamp, and of course, Ali Baba, who stumbles upon a den of thieves with those 2 magic words, "Open Sesame." But here's the really clever part. This wasn't just a string of adventure stories. Shahrazade's repertoire was this rich tapestry, weaving together fables, historical tales, romances, comedies, poems, you name it. And this diversity was key to her success. By switching up the genre night after night, she kept the king completely off balance and totally hooked. So, that's the story inside the book. But the story of the book itself is just as fascinating. Its real-world history is as complex and layered as any tale Shahrazad ever told. This timeline really shows its long and winding journey. The basic idea started way back in the 10th century in Persia. For hundreds of years after that, these stories were kept alive through oral tradition, passed down by Arab storytellers. It wasn't until the early 1700s that they just exploded in Europe, all thanks to a French translator named Antoine Galland. This whole structure actually has a name. It's called a frame story. The tale of Shahrazad and the King isn't just a simple introduction. It's the engine that powers the entire collection. It creates this ultimate sense of suspense, reminding us with every new story that a life is hanging in the balance. It's the glue that holds everything together. And this is crucial. There is no single definitive version of the 1001 Nights. It's a true melting pot of cultures, with roots in Persian, Indian, and Arabian folklore. And get this, historians now believe that two of the most famous stories of all, Aladdin and Ali Baba, probably weren't even in the original Arabic manuscripts and were likely added by that European translator, Galland. Which brings us to the book's lasting impact. And honestly, the influence these stories have had on world culture is almost impossible to overstate. It's just immense. I mean, you see it everywhere. It's inspired classical music, like Rimsky-Korsakov's famous Scheherazade. It's influenced countless works of art, illustration, and literature. Even simple phrases we use all the time, like open sesame, come directly from these tales. The legacy is truly all around us. Which leaves us with a final thought. Every single time you're binge watching a show and an episode ends right at a critical moment, leaving you desperate to know what happens next, you are experiencing the exact same technique that Scheherazade perfected over 1,000 nights ago. It's the ultimate proof that a well-told story, especially one that ends on a cliffhanger, is one of the most powerful forces in the entire world.